All right, we're
What's up,
good to go.
brother?
What's going on? We're good to
What's
go.
up?
We got RJ Reed with us, QB coach
What's going on, man?
extraordinaire.
Coach Schumann's on his way. So we can
We're,
kind of
we're,
get
we're
started and go.
live. We're live, Coach D. So I started up live already. Um, so Coach, it's great to have you on here. I'm gonna let Coach D start with you. I had to go to the doctor to get some things taken care of, and then I'll jump right on. But we're live. We're ready to go.
What's up, Coach?
All right. What's going on, brother? How you been? All right.
Not much. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. I appreciate you coming on, dude. Really do.
No problem.
Been a long time coming. So, um, guys, I'm excited to have Coach RJ Reed with us today. He's done a lot of things. He's really offensive guy. Kind of really on the cutting edge of with some stuff and whatnot. Runs a great thing that's really kind of expanded around here in the last couple of years, man. It's really awesome. So I'm excited to have you. Coach, do us a favor. Give us a little bit of your background, playing career, coaching career, kind of where you, how you kind of ended up where you are right now, just so our viewers kind of know what's going on.
All right. I played at Manasquan High School. Played quarterback there. Won state championship my junior and senior year. After that, I went to the Merchant Marine Academy. I played there my freshman year. Tore my ACL last game of the regular season, so I ended up transferring out of there to Rutgers. I worked in the recruiting office while I was at Rutgers, and for a year after I graduated there, underneath Shiano and for Coach Flood's first year up there. After that, I was at Manasquan for 2 years, Middletown South for 6, Ocean for 6, and now this is my first year at Shore this past season.
Coach, it's been a heck of a journey. Obviously, look, we all play and kind of transition out of that at some point. When did you really kind of know that coaching was going to be your thing?
I'd probably say, 6th grade. I probably knew that's when I really wanted to get into coaching. I mean, my dad was my offense coordinator in high school. I grew up around that Manasquan program, so I was in the coaching office every day with Coach Kaboo all the time. I was at his house watching film with him and my dad since I was, 4 years old. So I grew up around just coaching football from day one.
Right. Now, Manasquan High School, obviously, anybody that's from Jersey understands what Manasquan football is and the tradition that goes along with that. How have you really kind of taken some of those core values and things that you saw from, growing up around such a historically, prominent program? How have you taken some of those things and continued along the lines with your coaching?
So, I mean, one of Coach Kaboo's biggest things was he was a big innovator. He liked to go. He was always up at colleges, clinics, trying to find the next thing, how he can make his program the most successful it can be. And he wasn't really stuck in his way. He was like, what's the best thing for the kids we have on the roster this year? So, I mean, my dad used to always tell me when he first started there, my dad started there in 91. They were an odd front defense. I mean, you never would think of Manasquan as being an odd front. They were 4-3 for the last however many years. But they were an odd front. That's what he knew. That's what he was from under Coach Wolf. And they went to Virginia. Virginia was having some issues with personnel, stuff like that. They were going to this new 4-3, kind of Tampa 2 type of defense. And he was like, we have those same issues. We're playing bigger schools. We have those same types of issues that you're having. So he brought it back. They transitioned to that. And then offensively, I mean, you think of Manasquan always has that 21 personnel going to run power 30 times a game. But there's been years like my sophomore year, we were in, spread, we were in empty, we were in that type of stuff just because we weren't, great up front. We had more skilled kids. We had 3 sophomore running backs at that time. We didn't have any senior running backs, so we were smaller. So we threw the ball 15, 16 times a game. That's unheard of at Manasquan typically. So it was just kind of putting your kids that you have in the best position you can. And feel like we've done that over especially my years at Ocean. And we were offensively almost different every year based on who we had. I mean, with Tyler Douglas's senior year, we were empty, quarterback heavy run, threw the ball a ton. The next year, after Tyler graduated, we were more 21 personnel because we had running backs, linemen back, and we didn't have a dynamic athlete at quarterback. So we had to kind of just change what we were doing just to kind of fit who we had.
Right. And I look at it now, right? Like you look at a lot of coaches and, it's crazy, right? For me, are you going to be, I think one of the first things you have to figure out as a head coach or as a coordinator or just a team philosophy in general is, are you going to be a system type team or are you going to be a player type team? And when I say player type team, that is, what do we have on this roster and how do we maximize that? Right? Do I have a quarterback that can chuck it 50 times a game and be good with it? Right? Do I have wideouts that can catch it? Do I have running backs? Do I have a bigger offensive line? Right? Or maybe I have a tight end. Right? And I think it's something now that coaches really kind of try to do, but there's still some guys that are kind of stuck in those ways of, hey, we are a wing T team. This is what we do. We are we're a split back veer type of team. And look, we've had coaches on here that run their style of offense and it's extremely like they win games. They're in the finals every year. They're competing for titles. Yet, the coaches in the stands, right? Those are the best ones. Yeah. They're complaining or they're whining or this system isn't conducive to getting our kids into college. How do you speak to that kind of, if you have to deal with that?
Well, I mean, it comes down to your school demographic, school size. I mean, you look at like Freehold Township, they're air raid, they're 2x2, they're going to do that. But they also have, 4,000 kids in the school to choose from. So they can find the kids they're looking for. They have more options, to get those 4 receivers. Whereas we have 450 kids in our school. So if we don't have the quarterback that year, well, there's not, a sophomore coming up. We might have one quarterback in the program sometimes. We might not have a running back. So you kind of have to adapt because sometimes the school necessitates it. And you have a school like Point Borough, like their kids from the day they start AYF, they're flexbone, triple option. This is what we do, and they do a great job of developing that mentality and what they expect out of those kids and what type of kids they need, from 5 years old. So it comes down. It can work both ways. You just have to be, fully committed to
100%
what you're doing. 100%. And you can look at Point Borough. I mean, they have years where they have to do different things. There's years they play with a tight end because they have to. They don't have the dynamic athletes. There's other years they'll spread you out a little bit more because they have more dynamic athletes. So within the system, you're still going to have to cater to your personnel. It doesn't make sense if you're a system guy, you're going to be an air raid guy, you're going to be 4x4, 2x2, 4 receivers, 5 receivers. You don't have anyone that can catch. You're going to have to try to figure something out, or else you're going to win 2 games.
Right. And I always reference back, like, look, I played at a Group 1 high school up north, Butler High School. We were run and shoot from the day we were in 6th grade and could be chucking that thing around. We were 4 wide. But I'll tell you what, my 3 years of varsity, 4 years varsity football, just because we were, 4 wide receivers, we did stuff different every single year, right? Whether it was, incorporate more of a speed option game this year, or maybe we're going to be, a jet sweep team this year, or maybe, our slot receivers are going to be more of an emphasis this year. Like we just always changed up. And I think that's kind of, how you see it, with coaches nowadays. We need to figure out what we have rosters on our roster. And I think the other part of it that's really important, as a public school coach, we can't really go and get guys that we need or whatever. We are dealt with. This is what it is. This is who we have on our roster. And we're going to we need to cater to them in terms of, look, I have this type of kid coming up, or I have this player coming up. Now it's more of a, how do we keep them, right? Because once they get successful, it's like, hey, how do we keep them here? And
we got to, we got to recruit. The only thing we can really do is, recruit our building, get that basketball player that's not out, get him to come out because he fills that hole we have now as a junior.
Absolutely.
Maybe he can come play and fill that hole at receiver, or that baseball first baseman that never played football before. Maybe he can come play tight end for us, like stuff like
Absolutely.
that. We have to do
Absolutely. Look, it's one of the first things when you get into a new building, right? Look, I'm going to go sit in the cafeteria. I'm going to go look at every other team because I automatically know there is probably 6, 7, 8 kids walking around that building that should be participating in this. Now, I'm not saying they're going to come out and be the star, but look, high school football, it's about roles. You can play a role and be a really good high school player and be a part of something, a part of a culture, that you really wouldn't have. And if that coach doesn't get in that building and kind of look for that and do those things, that kid's just going to go through and he's just going to do whatever it is. And before you know it, he's graduated and he's gone. We don't have the luxury of like, hey, I need a wideout this year. Let me go get that guy. Or, hey, I need another running back. Let me go get that guy. We're working with what we have on our roster. And I think that's extremely important. Like, you got to recruit your building. Talk about a little bit about that, Coach, that transition that you guys, took part in this year, going from Ocean to Shore Regional.
Yeah, so we went from Ocean spread, bringing a spread offense, more dynamic two-way option offense, going to a school that had been wing T for 35, 40 years. So the summer was a big transition for us. I mean, we had schools that wanted to play us week 0 and stuff like that.
No,
we were like, we would love to play week 0, just we're not going to be ready. Like, we need as much time as we can. I mean, it was a good 3-4 weeks in the summer to get the quarterback to stop taking the snap and turn his back to the line of scrimmage. Like, even in the gun, like, he was just naturally, from when he was little, was take the snap, seat the ball back to the line, and then distribute.
That's it.
So to get him into that mindset of, I got to take the snap with my eyes downfield and see things before it happens, was a huge, transition, a huge change for Josh this year. But he took it in stride. He ended up being a great player for us and doing some great things just because he was just a natural athlete. I mean, last year he played shortstop, center field for the baseball team. He just kind of figured it out at quarterback, but it took a long time to get transition out of that wing T into the spread stuff. And we actually ended up incorporating a lot of their wing T philosophies and some of their stuff into what we were doing. Like, the first thing we did was we installed, normally we're a inside zone, wide zone team first, and then we get into the gap scheme. We went right gap scheme because we knew they would be familiar with that. That's right. Where they've done that all before. They've run power and buck sweep before, so they know how to pull, do all that stuff. So let's get them comfortable in that. And then we'll go to more wide zone and more of the true spread offense run game. So, and then the kids like it. They actually, like, I don't know what they call it. One of their wing T plays they run, we actually incorporated that. We went empty, put both running backs as the wings, and did some two motion stuff, some fake, some of that wing T crisscross counter type stuff just out of empty. So we gave some stuff that they were familiar with, kind of help them with that transition. And it was nice having the biggest thing for us was having guys that were on staff. So previously we kept 4 guys that were on staff, 4 or 5 kids on staff last year. That we were like, hey, we're doing this, and they're like, hey guys, it's just this from last year.
Huge in a transition year.
Starting over here instead of starting in the backfield, stuff like that made that translation to them made it so much easier and so much quicker for them to pick things up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and look, and I think that just that whole, hey, we're doing it's this, guys, allows that sense of kind of calmness to come over the players themselves we have relate back. Yeah. Like, hey, we're going to be all right. This is what we're, hey, this is just this. Just touching a little bit, Dave, on the transition from Ocean to Shore.
I listened as I was driving, so I listened.
Oh, okay. You're good.
Yeah. I was on. I just you don't want to see me driving from the doctor, so I had to go over there. I've had this crazy on my elbow burster sack it's on month 2 now. So everything they gave me did not get it to go away. So I had to go in there and get something different. Contributing to Big Pharma there. What was really interesting is I think, not just the coaching that you're doing and the background, which I didn't realize. I didn't realize that you were at Mid-South. That makes a little bit more of the connection how you and Ed Tanucci originally got together, right? Because you coached with him. and that you were at Rutgers with Flood and Shiana for a little bit, and it's a really varied background, right? That really kind of put you in touch with different things. When you started Atlantic Passing Academy and started building that part up, what kind of was the impetus for you kind of jumping in the mix to the whole quarterback training game?
There we go. Sorry.
Oh.
That was my
No,
my
you're good,
internet,
buddy.
Yeah, good, yeah.
bumps in and out there.
What I was saying is, I don't know if you missed what I said, but I said when you started running the Atlantic Passing Academy, what was kind of the impetus of you deciding to jump into the quarterback training game and get into that part of it? What was it that you were hoping to kind of bring to the table when you started doing that?
Yeah, I had been doing a bunch of stuff before that, training wise, at some other locations. When the field house at Manasquan, the high school there, was finished, the rec was looking for, trying to fill it, because the field house is half the time is the high schools, half the time is recreation. But they were looking to advance the fill in there, and Antonucci reached out to me, and he's one of the rec directors in Manasquan. And he was like, listen, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Like, I want to bring somebody in to come run some kind of big football camp in here every night and every week, once a night. What do you think? And I was like, well, yeah, this is what I've been trying, the opportunity I've been trying to do at other places. Just I haven't had the facility that could, hold it. With that wasn't going to cost me, $800 an hour, like some of these indoor places charge, and like then you have to charge the kids so much money, and it's almost not even worth doing it at that point, because you're like, I don't feel right, like I'm going to charge these kids, so much money to get out of this, and I'm like, I don't feel like they're getting enough out of that for that type of money. Whereas now we're running it as a rec event, so rec is sponsoring it, so we can make it affordable, and that's kind of my whole time. What I want to do is I just want to provide. When I first did it, it was just me and Coach Antonucci, and we're like, even if they're not getting great coaching for what they're paying, they're going to have a place every night where they can come, they can throw, they can catch, they can get work in, even if it's just run like a captain's practice at the beginning, but we're going to give, 16 quarterbacks, 20 receivers a chances to come and throw every night in the winter, when who knows how often they're going to be able to get out and get work in, and the way we've timed it up, like the high school session doesn't start until 8:00, so they can get with their teams, their weight room, all their stuff, responsibilities they can do with their teams after school and all that, and still be able to come to this. That was one of our biggest things when we started, is like, we don't want to interfere with their high school programs. We don't want to be that guy that's like, oh no, don't go to the weight room, come train with us. Like, we understand, like, your high school programs come first, like get everything in with them, and then come get the extra in with us. And now we've really grown, take off. I have me, another quarterback coach, a tight ends coach, 2 or 3 receiver coaches. I have a running backs coach now. So we're really taking off. I mean, I don't think I can fit any more kids in there on Tuesday nights right now, especially for the high school session. We're pretty much at our max right now is what we can do in there. We get a lot done. The number one thing I preach to anyone who comes and coaches for me is I don't want guys standing around. I can't stand when there's one line of kids, there's 30 kids in line, one guy's working, we're all going to watch, you're there for an hour and a half, and you get 3 reps. Like, I want, 4, 5, 6 groups, figure it out, get it to work where you can have as many guys working as you can. So, which has been, I think, a great success. From talking to the parents, they're like, for what we're paying, I feel like we're getting more out of Tuesday nights than we are when we go to a lot of these big, huge camps. We're trying to keep it small. We're trying to keep that small hometown feel, like they're going to practice at school. That's kind of how we run it. We have our whole practice model is pretty much we're going through a summer install. Like, our camp is our sessions are 7 weeks long. We start with, quick game, quick screen stuff, and we build all the way through to, like, this week we're working play action, footwork, play action routes, Y cross, that type of stuff. So we kind of slowly build and transition. Each week kind of builds upon each other, so that they're getting a full install of not necessarily their offense, but every week we do something that's some version is in every offense. Like, I have 2 quarterbacks that play at Point Beach. They're old school wing T. They don't pull guys. They're old school traditional wing T. So we have to translate everything. Like, no, we're running this route. It's really just this version of boot or waggle for you. do that footwork instead, because we know you're never going to be in the gun, going gun, 5-step drop, reading left to right. You just don't do it in your offense. So let's translate it so it's your style of offense, but you can also now learn, because you never know what's going to come next. In high school football, these coaches, I mean, every day they're like, I just can't do it anymore. I got to be home with my family. All of a sudden, you think you're going to be a wing T guy on your junior year. Coach steps down, got to go do something. You have a new coach come in, and you're spread. And you're like, I've only ever worked wing T footwork before. I have no idea what I'm doing now. So we kind of give them a base of a little bit of everything, so that they're comfortable no matter what situation they're put in.
No doubt about it. What's your philosophy with quarterbacks, like as far as how you're developing them and trying to get them through each stage of their development? How do you look at that position and what do they need to be doing in each stage of their development?
Well, I think the biggest thing is they have to be athletes. Like, they can't just try to just focus on being a quarterback. I find that the more athletic kids are, the more naturally playing quarterback comes to them. So I push them a lot into like mobility and speed and agility, body control type movements, like outside of me. I want them to do as much of that stuff as they can, so that when they come to me, they know how to control their body, they know how to move their hips and stuff like that. So that's a big thing for like the next level quarterbacks, is that being able to tell your body to do exactly what you want it to do, and then it responding and doing it. So I'm big on base and balance and footwork. So my biggest thing is I want their base to be strong and their head to be strong. So I want them to know what they're seeing, know what they're throwing, and know where they're throwing, and be able to get themselves in line to throw it. I don't go over crazy with – if you watch all my quarterbacks, they're not all going to have the same throwing motion. I'm not one of those coaches that's going to be like, this is how you have to throw the ball. This is the only way to get it done. I'm going to help them tweak and adjust their throwing motions to be more efficient. Like, I want their throwing motion to be as efficient as possible. I also want it to be comfortable for them and natural. So there's some kids that just have that natural, slightly more sidearm throwing motion. If they can get it there on time, accurately, and repeatable motion, we'll stay with it. We'll tweak it, make it more repeatable and more efficient. But I want their base to be strong. And then if they know where they're going before it, they're ahead of the game. They're ahead of most kids out there.
Yeah, I think everybody's body type is different too, right? So
yep.
The way that they're built and how some are taller, some are shorter, and quarterbacks now are playing. They're playing as shorter guys and as really tall guys, so that probably affects how their motion is and how their body mechanics work. What do you think? As far as when you watch like quarterback play now, like what are you seeing as some of the good things that are going on out there, and what are some of the things that you think need to change in quarterback play, and as far as how quarterbacks are going about their business? Because it's really interesting watching the evolution of quarterbacks and the very different types of quarterbacks. And you probably, even from when you're coaching high school, right, you probably see some kids playing and you're like, man, like that, what that quarterback's doing mechanically doesn't make sense. And then, you go play, you see like a Tom's River, right? They're totally got TJ. Before that, they were quarterback was run the ball almost every play, and then TJ comes in and they're throwing the ball almost every play, right? So talk about what you're seeing from that standpoint.
So I've seen it like I was saying, with quarterbacks having to be athletes, like more and more it's the quarterback is used more in the run game and just having to be on mobile and make throws off platform. I mean, I really gone are the days of the 5-7 drop, sit in the pocket, reset, throw. I think part of that is offensive design, and I think part of that is the schedule, the way things work now at practice. Schools aren't focusing as much on pass protection and like the little details. Mm-hmm. They're more on the bigger picture things. Let's run as many plays as we can. Let's make up cool plays. They're not focusing on the base as much. So quarterbacks have to be more athletic, more mobile, because they're constantly on pressure. They're not able to sit in the top of their drop and just throw their reads. I mean, you look at when, like for TJ, for example, like he had a bunch of games where he had big numbers and stuff like that from the pocket. And he had other games where I don't think he had any passes from the pocket. They were all on scrambles and rollouts and stuff like that. And they're with one of the top offensive lines in the state. You know what I mean? defenses have also caught up so much now with like the pressure game, being able to put pressure on quarterbacks and stuff like that. They're not lining up in the same spot anymore and bringing the same guy. So that was also, now offense now has to catch back up with that. You've seen a lot more teams now. Their screen game has really increased because we're getting such more complex pictures from the defense that we're getting a lot of your yards on screen game. Last year we had a game, I think, versus New Egypt. Our quarterback, he broke school record, throw for like 270. I think he threw the ball past 10 yards twice. Everything was, screen game, quick game, just get the ball out of his hands quick because they were just bringing pressures and disguising defenses. And I just get the ball out of his hands now, make them have to back off and defend the field, and then we can attack them. So I think that's a big thing with it. And then on top of that, like there are so many different styles of the same offense. Like you say we're a spread team, but really a spread team, you can be a spread team that's, basically a flexbone team, but you're spread. You can be a spread wing T team. You can be a spread air raid. There's so many different versions of it. And these kids are doing so much different stuff that, they have to be just a better athletic quarterback. Like I said, gone are the days of that big kid is just going to sit in the pocket and throw the ball down the field. You don't have very many of that. And those kids aren't really getting recruited that much anymore. They don't want those. Example, like the kid from the Hun. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen play in New Jersey. His arm strength is insane. And he is a good athlete, but he's 6'5", 230. And there's only, it cuts down your school size now for where you're recruitable going to go to. But a lot of they want these 6'2.5" quarterbacks that can run around and make plays with their feet, being that dynamic athlete, just because that's where college offenses are right now.
That's a great point. There aren't that many places that are recruiting guys who are just going to drop back and just chuck it. That's a great point. And you've seen that even obviously it's become a bottom-up effect versus what it used to be top-down, right? It used to be, okay, this is what the quarterback in the NFL was like, and then you kind of fit your quarterback in accordingly, right? But it's the other way around now. It's literally high school, the quarterbacks that are coming up in high school fitting into what they can do in college, and then college fitting into what's going into the NFL. And the cool thing is it's made the play diversity really, like the nuance of the play calling. You can run a lot of different things without a lot of change for your players, but to the defense, it makes it look very different. And I think your point on the defense is coming after that. They're always trying to get a +1, and that's that the quarterback can negate that obviously in the run game, because now with him having the ability to move or being able to take off and run, that negates that +1, because that's a big part of what defenses are trying to do. If I can get a +1 somewhere, matchup wise, and make that quarterback get a buy-in decision wise, it's 100%. And then getting rid of the ball, I think that's might be the most important thing of all for quarterbacks, because they all have varying different athletic ability. They all have to be an athlete now. But they have various different levels of what they can do in the running game or scrambling game. But getting rid of the ball quickly and accurately is so important, because the time you have has been cut down, and you don't know where the pressure is always coming from, right? So the ability to react and get rid of the ball quickly is such a big deal. Is that something that you really try to emphasize with the players, the ability to get that ball out? It sounds like you're doing that in your own game, obviously, as well.
Yeah. So like we talk a lot about, finding our rhythm throw. Where are you going to go on rhythm? Where are you getting the ball to out on rhythm? And that should be a throw that's a weakness in the defense, a hole in the defense. So we talk about seeing the coverage, seeing where the weakness is, and that's going to be my rhythm throw. Like, at least for my guys, the way I train my guys is, we're not ever going to be like, we read everything high to low, or we read everything low to high. It's coverages are going to dictate, where you go with the ball. And the defense can't cover every zone in the field. There's always, every defense has a weakness, just like every offensive play has a weakness to it. We're going to try to find that and get the ball out. And that might be, we're going to throw the weak side hitch, 17 times in a row until they do something different. And I feel like it's a hard thing to get high school kids to want to do, just keep taking those routes that are there. They want to just do something and throw the ball down the field, or just throw it to a different guy. Like it's hard to get those kids just to constantly just keep taking that steal 6 yards, steal 6 yards, steal 6 yards. Like it's free yards, take it. So you have a lot of kids. It's hard to teach that, and also you get, like you said, the coaches from the stands. They don't love it either. When you're throwing a 4-yard out route, for 4 or 5 yards, if we turn around and hand it off power for 4 or 5 yards, everyone will be screaming, clapping, great job.
Yeah.
If you throw the ball and get 4 yards, it's like, oh, let's throw the ball down the field. Why are we not taking shots? So it's hard to get those guys to understand that that's okay. And that's how you get guys that go 24 for 26 for 240 yards, because they're just taking all these checkdowns. A hitch miss one tackle. That's a big play.
It's great. That's a great point. The quarterbacks that can understand that and have the patience of just taking what's there over and over again are going to have a lot of success at the high school level. And then, at the college level and the pro level, that's what's going on. I mean, Tom Brady used to take that's all he did is take checkdowns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, literally. And then what happens is you start to collapse the defense down on it, and goes over the top for a 6 that looks like, how did that guy get so wide open, right? Andy Reid does that all day long with the Chiefs. Talk about the things that have changed cerebrally for quarterbacks, because I think that's there are some guys that, well, I'll use this. So everybody sees that John Gruden on Barstool, right? Yeah. And by the way, highly entertaining. I mean, it's very, very entertaining. But the old school call 9,000 things and tag 9,000 things, and everybody tags stuff and all. But those long-winded calls, to me, are a detriment to the development of the quarterbacks, because they're not going to play as fast. And now, look, I know there's still NFL teams that are doing it, but everybody in definitely college and high school, but even the NFL, they're trying to figure out ways to condense these things to make it easier for a quarterback, because ultimately you want them to play fast, right? So talk about what you try to do to help quarterbacks be able to understand communication, and to make things not just easier, but easier from a communication standpoint, so they can focus on what's going on in front of them.
Yeah, so like we're the same way. We want to try to limit our stuff to like 3 words at max as our play calls. We do that a lot by how we call our plays in. We signal everything to the quarterback. Now the quarterback will come to us, hey, you can just our players pretty much dictate how we call plays. Like, what makes sense for you? How can I call this so you'll understand what we're doing? And like we have one guy who'll signal in to just our receivers, one guy who signals in just to the O-line, one guy who signals into the quarterback and running back. So because the receivers they don't need to see what the pass protection is. They don't care about that. So if we can take one less thing they have to learn and look at and know what it means, we'll take that out of the equation. Same thing for the O-line. Like, they need to know the pass protection, and they need to know what kind of pass it is. Is it they get pass protection, and they need to know, is it a middle of the field pass, is it a downfield pass, or is it a sideline pass? Just so they can look and see where pressures are coming from and know who they have to assign in the pass pro. And then from the running back, they really need to know, is it run or pass? Like, if they get pass, they know I'm a flat route. If it's run, they know what the run play is. And then with that, we've been able to streamline those signals so much that the quarterback is really getting, it's this and this, and he can put it together. And then we put, which I don't think enough teams do for their quarterbacks, we do it almost to a detriment to us, I feel sometimes, is we put so much on our quarterback, so much responsibility on him. He calls our full pass protection. We give him his guidelines, his rules during each week. Our pass protection changes every week. He gets our guidelines, our rules. This is what we're doing. This is what we're looking for. And he's got to call the pass pro. He's telling the O-line who he's got. He's telling the O-line who he's responsible for. He's got to pick out who the quarterback's responsible, who the running back's responsible for, who we're check releasing off of. All that is on the quarterback. And we do big, we want all of our guys to understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it. Why are we calling this play? And I feel like by doing the way we've done that with all of our meeting time, I feel like the biggest thing at Ocean, difference between Middletown South, Ocean, and Shore, was our meeting time. At Ocean, we didn't have the good ability, a good place to sit and meet with our kids and watch film. and that held us back. At Middletown South and at Shore, we have like great facilities, great places to go watch film, enough time to go watch film. It's just worked out really well where we can get more classroom time, and that's really seen a huge difference in the how fast the kids are picking up what we want to do. Like it's almost not even about how much time we're on the field anymore. It's how much time can we do. And with like this, like Zoom and video stuff, I put just presentations and video clips together for kids, and they go and watch it. Then we'll have a 10-minute meeting for them to ask questions about it on like Sunday nights. I'll send out a thing. We'll meet for 10, 15 minutes, talk about stuff. And then when we get into our meeting on Monday, we're all on the same page. So that type of stuff. And from having the quarterback have so much responsibility and kind of be on the same page with us, a lot of times he knows what the next play is going to be before I even call it. Like he knows that we just got, we're in the middle of the field zone. We just got 6 yards. It's 2nd and 4. I know coach is going to call one of our 2 shot plays here. Like they know where we're going. He just knows which one are you calling. Like that's just what he needs to say, or who are we getting the ball to here.
So, Coach, it's a great point. Great point. Great point you made about the off the field stuff. Yeah,
by the end of the season this year, our quarterback assured Josh, I probably could have said, go ahead, you got this drive. And he probably would have been like 90% on the same page with me on what we were calling. Same thing. I was at my Tyler Douglas's senior year. I mean, when we beat Red Bank on like the last drive of the game, it was a 2-minute drive. He called the whole drive himself.
Yeah.
He just peeked over to me to see if I wanted something specific. I just kept getting him, go ahead. You're doing a good job. Go ahead. And he called quarterback power to the boundary. He got like an 18-yard gain. He knew right now we're going quarterback bluff, pull up, throw the play action post. He just got right to the line, called it, boom, 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 done. Didn't even look over to me. And he knew that's where's the next call we were going with, and he knew where we were going with that. So having that trust in the quarterback, because ultimately we only can do so much. They got to play the game out there on the field. And with us, like we're tempo, no huddle. And I always say, I'm not really coaching against the other team's defensive coordinator. I'm coaching against how well he prepared his kids Monday through Thursday. Then I'm coaching against those kids on the field because they don't have time to get the calls, to get adjustments, get all that stuff because they have to get ready to set and ready to play. So the faster my quarterback can get us ready to play, the less they're ready to play.
Yeah, it's that streamlining is tremendous. Like, so you're getting tidbits of things to be able to focus on, and that ultimately stacks itself over time, right? And allows them to really know what they're doing. And as you get towards the end of the year, like you said, they're knowing almost everything that's going to happen. And that way you're in sync with them, and that allows you to communicate when something goes wrong. You're on the same page usually as to what went wrong. Like, okay, you know what, we may not want to do this. Like they're showing this look now. We really didn't have this. This wasn't being done on film. Yeah. We should go to this, or we should pivot to this. But really, really great stuff. How do you, as far as like, so quarterback wise, and you talked a lot about the training aspect of them, not quarterback throwing wise, but the well-rounded physical training of the quarterbacks. What is like a high level, like 12-month plan that you try to have those high school kids and those middle school kids do to really get themselves ready to play in the season?
So, I mean, like one of the biggest things is I have like a January 1st to August 15th, like strength training plan that I don't just give it out to them and let them ask for it, because a lot of times they're at a school where they don't need that extra, like Manasquan, they have a full-time strength coach. Like he handles all that. Rumson, they have a full-time strength coach. Like there's schools that they don't need that, but then there's other schools where they might need help. They might need some guidance. So I give them that. Like, I don't believe I'm full on. Like if you look at probably, I want to say 80% of college football quarterbacks don't straight bar bench anymore. They just don't do it. It's terrible for their shoulders. So they all dumbbell bench. Like nobody, NFL, college, almost nobody straight bar benches anymore. So that's a big change that I've been pushing to the kids is like, go talk to your coach. Here's articles. Bring this science with you when you talk to them. Say, coach, I'm all in for our weight program, but can I dumbbell bench instead of straight bar bench? Can I do this type of stuff in place of what we're doing? Like, how do you hybrid? Because the worst thing you can do, high school football coach, have a kid come in and be like, I'm not doing that, coach. My quarterback coach told me not to do it. Like, I don't want to like that's not me as a high school football coach and stuff like that. I would hate that too. But if you can come to a coach with science,
yeah, facts,
and saying, listen, I want to do your workout plan. Can we tweak it like this? So it's
just this, coach, just this.
I feel like it better suits me as my position. And I'll tell him here, give your coach my number. Have him call me if he wants to ask why we're doing this. I'll talk to him. Like there's little things like that. And then I believe that I believe kids throw too much. I believe that they want to throw too much. Like a great kid, Ryan Valley, who played for you at St. John Vianney. He was a kid. He would come in on Tuesday nights, and be like, "Oh, coach, my arm's killing me." I was like, "Well, what'd you do this week?" He was like, I threw Saturday, through Sunday. I'm here throwing tonight." And I was like, "Well, did you recover? Did you give yourself a chance to stretch and anything like that?" It's like, no. I was like, "Yeah, well, then your arm's gonna hurt." Like, I tell the kids all the time, like, what we do right now from January to July almost really doesn't matter. Not that the training doesn't matter, but like you make bad throws now, it doesn't matter. You need to take a day off now, it doesn't matter. Our goal is to peak August 15th, generally, for that first week of practice. That's what our goal. Our goal is to make you the best version you can be on July or August 15th, not in May, not in January. So if I have kids that have come to me Tuesday nights and I'm like, don't throw tonight. Go through all the footwork, do everything. We're not going to throw tonight. You don't need to throw tonight. It's just going to be a detriment to you. You know what I mean? Or like I have Jack Cannon, who's starting to throw, getting ready to throw for schools and stuff like that. We're trying to, build his routine, what throws he's going to do for the colleges and stuff like that. Build his playlist, basically, we call it, for what he's going to do for the schools. And I'm like, if you're throwing for a school on Wednesday, don't throw here Tuesday night. Like, don't do it. It's not going to benefit you. Come, go through the warm up, go through all the footwork, but don't throw. Save your bullets for the next day. So I feel like that's the next step. Is these kids is recovery, is the post throwing, the pre throwing and post throwing is what they're doing physically to get themselves ready to throw. And then when they're done, how are they recovering? What are they doing to prep themselves for the next time they throw? So that's where I focus a lot on. Because like I said, most kids have the weight room covered. Schools have the weight room covered, the strength covered. We focus on like the rotational strength, rotational movements, and rotational flexibility is the big things we focus on in that department. And then I try to give them as much information as I can on what they should be doing before they throw, after they throw, that type of stuff.
Yeah, and the bands and those kind of things help them with the recovery, and they should have some band strapped to a door somewhere in their house, whether it's their room, so they should be doing the rotational stuff to help them recover, help them to get those muscles that they don't work on and lift them stronger. And I think it's great points you brought up there. I think also like quarterbacks can also and we've talked about it because we've had on. And I encourage you to look this person up because I think you'll find it fascinating as a coach. But this guy Tony Holler, and he does this thing called Feed the Cats, which is centered around speed. But the thing he talks a lot about, and because you work with so many kids now, talks a lot about microdosing, but not just the speed part of it, like trying to apply it to each sport you do. And it's a great point you brought up with with Ryan. Ryan's thought process would be like, I just got to keep throwing hard all the time, and that'll make me better, right? And he doesn't realize that maybe he might be better off throwing 10 throws today, 10 throws tomorrow, 10 throws the next day. Maybe he has a session with you, and that's where he's really getting his work in. But he doesn't need to go and do or maybe he's throwing, I don't know, screens one day and then the next day throw different type of throws. And I me and Derek have had this guy on twice, and we're just fascinated by it and their and how they're starting to apply it to not just football, by the way, basketball, like all these
everything.
But it's kind of like taking what you would teach a 100-meter dash guy for the most part and how you would develop them and applying it to other sports. And there's obviously fits with it. But I think it's so interesting when you brought that up, because the recovery aspect and the getting them to where they want to be at their very best, which is obviously in season, right? A lot of kids lose sight of that. They lose sight of like, I got to get my my training in right now, and I got to do it again. I got to do it again. And there's a place, especially when they start to go to camps, which gets crazy, right? Like you can't just go to a camp every single day and expect your arm to be like, like
especially the way quarterback recruiting is these days. Like I tell my guys, if you're going to throw for schools in the spring, you're better off not throwing than not throwing your best. Like if you're going to go out and you don't feel great, don't throw that.
One shot.
Don't, because if they don't like what they see on day one, they're never coming back.
Great point.
Like I saw that with going through the recruiting process with Tyler. Like we saw, like he had schools that come in and he didn't have a great day for them, and they were mid-level FCS schools, and they're like, oh, we're out. He threw 2 days later for like Michigan State, and Michigan State's in, and we're like, this just doesn't make sense. Why? But like they can't miss at the next level. Like they can't miss anymore on quarterbacks the way the transfer portal is. Talking to the guys at Monmouth, and he said it perfectly. He's like, we have 3 cycles with a kid in the building. And after that 3rd cycle, he's either playing too well for us and he's transferring, or he's not playing enough and he's transferring. So if we bring a kid in that, isn't going to play for us in those cycles and is going to transfer out, we could have just taken a running back instead.
Right.
We can't miss on a kid. Like we can't take a quarterback who's not going to transfer out because he's playing too well. Like that's our goal now, is to get those kids who are going to come play for us for 2 or 3 years. They're playing so well that they're going to go try to play at the next level. But so they can't, like I said, they can't miss on kids. So if they see a kid throw and he had a bad day, well, it's like, all right, well, maybe next time he has a good day, but how many bad days is he going to have for us? And you can't risk that. So if you don't feel like you're going to perform your best for schools, you're better off not throwing. They'll come back and see you throw. But once they see you throw, that's their impression of you. So I tell all these kids that go to all these camps, like, you better throw well. Like, you're going to 4 camps this week. By camp 4, how well are you going to throw?
Exactly.
Like, you're better off pushing that and saying, hey, coach, can I come, in July instead of June and throw for you? So it's a very strategic, and the recruiting game for quarterbacks is different than every other position.
Right.
Because, schools are going to take 3 or 4. They could take 3 or 4 running backs. They're going to take 5 linemen. Most colleges now are going to take a quarterback in every other class. So they're not necessarily taking one in every class. And you look at Texas. Texas identifies 4 quarterbacks in the country they want. If they don't get one of those 4, they don't take one. They're like, we're not taking the 7th best quarterback we like just because we need to take a quarterback this year. We'll go get a portal kid to go fill that hole for that kid's senior year. Or if we need a backup down the road, we'll get a portal kid to fill that hole. But the high school kids are like, if they're not one of our top 3 or 4, we don't even talk to them, because there's no point in recruiting them because they can't play at this level.
Great point. With the high school kids and recruiting, the transfer portal, more than any other position, because of the numbers, the quarterback position has been so affected. And we have this, it's funny because I run this show, I played at UConn, and I run the show called Husky Huddle. And we are always having like alumni on, and the guys who are like the voice of UConn, outsiders kind of for the most part, but but have been either played in the program, been involved. But one of the interesting discussions, almost every time, it comes down to quarterback, right? And it comes down to like who's transferring. And the question always is, what about these 3 guys that we have that we brought in at like high school, like the 2 or 3 guys? Like, what happens to these guys? Are they ever going to get a shot? Because we'll bring in a guy, and then, now they're paying that guy, right? Everybody's paying that guy they bring in. And in UConn's case, we actually had the quarterback that actually ended up being the better guy this year was the transfer from Maine, who we didn't pay at all. Yeah. And so and then there's still these high school kids that are back there. What do you like beyond the throwing part, which makes 100% sense? What do you advise like high school quarterbacks? I'm sure they're coming to you and they're all like, quarterback parents, quarterbacks themselves, they're always in a panic mode from respect from recruiting standpoint, no matter how good they are, even the best ones, right? So what do you kind of try to advise them within that process for those guys?
I tell them the biggest thing is, number one, use your athletic ability to go to the best possible school you can go to. That's for 90% of the quarterbacks I talk to. He's like, how can you use your athletic ability here to go to a better school that you couldn't get into without it? Use that first. That's your first number one goal. You can, like Jack Cannon, like he has all these Ivy League offers. Like you're good. Like if you don't get those higher level, whatever that you're looking for, going to UPenn and playing for 4 years, graduating from UPenn, there's nothing better than that. Like, or going to play at Princeton. Like that's a great option to have. So like your grades and go to that school that you can get into. And on the next point, go to a school that you're going to play early. Don't go to that stretch school that came in late, that bigger school to offer you. Go to a school that you're going to play as a redshirt freshman, because you're going to go. You have the way the portal is now. Use the portal to your advantage. Also, don't go to that tough school that's going to look to replace you in the portal. Go to a school, play well for 2 years, and then be that kid that's going to that school to replace someone in the portal. Like, don't always look at the portal as a detriment and a bad thing. Like, if you're a good player, you're going to find a place to go play. Go play. It might not be your goal number one offer out of high school, but really, ultimately, where does it matter? Where do you graduate from? Where do you finish at? Where do you end up playing the big plays in your career? That might not be to your junior and senior year, but you got to play, get to throw 450 passes at Wagner over 2 years. And then all of a sudden, now you're playing at Monmouth in the starter for 2 years, just like the Robertson, the kid they have now. He went to Maine, played well up at Maine, and now he's killing it at Monmouth. Like, so use the portal to your advantage. Don't think of it as a bad thing because you're not getting these offers, because there's going to be years where those big school, even though you might be a big school kid, you're not getting those big school, they're just not there. They're not available. Go to a lower school. It doesn't hurt you to go to a lower school then transfer. Just use the portal to your advantage. I think that's the way most big schools now are going to recruit. And I can see it like down the road starting to be like Major League Baseball. Like, use Rutgers and Monmouth just as an example. Rutgers being like, you know what? We really like this kid. We don't really have a spot for him. Here, Monmouth, take this kid. Let him come play for you, start for you. He's a 5-star kid. Come start for you for 2 years. Then we'll come back and take him after that.
Yeah.
And from Monmouth,
it's going to be like a farm system situation, right? Like a AAA, AA type thing.
Yeah, Rutgers is going to push a kid to us in state that we would have no business getting. But he wants to play for Rutgers in 2 years. But Rutgers also wants him to play and not just sit. So Monmouth's like, all right, we have 2 years to try to convince this kid to stay. Worst case is he's a 5-star kid, plays really well for us, and then goes to Rutgers, and they give us another one. Right? So I can envision that in the next decade or so. Things like that happening, where bigger and smaller schools that aren't competing on the same level with each other, but are local to each other, getting together and doing that, because like ultimately you want your kids to play, especially quarterbacks. The more game reps they have, the better they are going to be when they come play for you. That kid that's going to sit in your program for 3 years and play in the fourth quarter of some blowout paid games, it doesn't really help him. Whereas if he's going to go throw 500 balls for Monmouth, and play in the playoffs there, and then come, well, now you have 2 whole seasons of him game tape that you can now correct him from and make him better. Coach, you're muted.
So we thought about the farm system before, but we never thought about it from a
geographical standpoint.
Feeding another school, because it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you go into like, you talk about the major leagues, like the Yankees, they send somebody down to Columbus, right? And they're paying for that person, or, between like transfer fees, much like they do in soccer, right? For them to be able to play at that level. And that gives them the opportunity to be able to develop, and then they have kind of first dibs almost on that person.
Yeah.
And, before if that person isn't going the way they want, or they can get a better value, let's say by sending them to a different place, they do that. But that's really, really an interesting point on recruiting, because I could see that happening. And you're right, geographically, like, this kid, I could offer this kid a scholarship, but he's just going to sit, he's just going to sit. And so, if we could collaborate and say, hey, listen, I'll tell him that he should go here to Rutgers, Monmouth example is a great example. I'll tell Coach Callahan, hey, listen, this kid could play for us, and he's really probably above the level you're at, but you're going to have him for 2 years, and he's going to be a star for you for 2 years. You're going to win a lot of ball games for 2 years, and then you know what? After those 2 years, he's going to look to jump. We have first dibs. I'd love to see how that would be an interesting thing to play out. Very, very interesting. I mean, high school.
From Rutgers standpoint, Rutgers says, "Hey, we'll give you $200,000 to go play at Monmouth. You're just coming here when you transfer. If
Right.
You're coming here because we already paid you $400,000 to play there."
Yep.
So, and then from Monmouth's standpoint, Monmouth's like, we don't have the best we can do NIL is we can get you free pizza at Jack's. Like,
Right.
Yeah. NIL money. But now if Rutgers come in and supplement them, I'm sure they'll be like, yeah, sure, send us all these 4 or 5-star kids.
Someone's going to do that.
You're going to recruit.
You know what I mean?
So you're telling me you're going to go down to Florida and recruit for us? I'm all in for that. Like,
Someone's going to figure that out sooner than later, RJ, and they're going to jump on it. Like, honestly, like, you could look at like a UMass, right, with him taking over there to kind of get that foothold within the Northeast type of where there's so many Division III schools or Division II schools, and kind of just lock into that and make that be his feeder rather than have to, do that stuff. Sooner than later, though, that's going to come to fruition. I firmly believe that, and then somebody's going to be rocking, and it's gonna be a way to do it, right? And it's like, look, you're talking about come full circle. You yourself as like the guy that you played for as an innovator and doing those things, like those are the guys that push the envelope and do something that nobody else has done, and usually reap the benefits from it.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. That's really, especially the big schools. They have so much money to be able to. Why just throw it down the drain? The guy that you're not sure is going to get there or not, get him into a feeder system. Spend that money on him, and now he goes here.
Awesome to see it.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal idea, dude. You're going to work for the NCAA after this.
That's your next move.
It might be
go with a state title at Shore, and then you can go do that.
No doubt about it. Well, Coach, it's been phenomenal having you on. I really, really appreciate it. And Derek did a fantastic job starting that off, man. You're ready. You're ready. You can replace me. You can throw me aside.
Casey, buddy, let's take it easy.
Throw me aside. No, really phenomenal. I love what you're doing. Obviously,
RJ. It's really good.
One day it was great. And we'll have him back again. We're trying to always work this out with the basketball schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're doing great stuff, and best of luck with everything in the future. You have the only indoor. Is that the only indoor facility in all of New Jersey?
At a public school, yeah.
Who has one at the private school? Has one?
Well, some of them have some connections and deals with other like private places.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, no.
Donovan has that bubble down there, but it's not.
Come on, dude.
But on campus, nobody has that.
No, I mean, look, and I think that's
Texas style right there.
Kudos though to like Manasquan themselves and like the district figuring out a way to make the rec program and the school come together as one, and like, look, we can both uber benefit from this.
Yeah, and that's the way that's the only way they were able to do it. Was if that had to go out for referendum, it would have never gotten passed.
Absolutely not in that town, not with that many people, and the dynamics of how it's made up and whatnot. So to mutually benefit both, and ultimately like the kids and all that kind of stuff at the end of it, dude, like kudos to that district for kind of and the town to kind of working together for that. But appreciate you, buddy.
Like Shore, we're looking to do the same thing at Shore. Rumson's now looking to do the same thing.
Oh, I'm sure Rumson's looking, dude. They're gonna have, I'm sure they can get some donors.
Like the Middletown schools, they're looking to put one up at one of the middle schools for like the whole district to use stuff. So there's a bunch of schools now that they saw like there's a way to do it without having to go strictly through the school budget, that they're all over it.
I hope they put one in Middletown, man.
Yep. Look at the 2 high schools I got. How about we figure it out down here? You know what I'm saying? Like you think
Point Borough's all over it.
Oh,
schools who don't have the field space. That are limited. Like with Manasquan, like they don't cancel practice. They just figure out how to work the time schedule through there. When it rains or stuff like that, they don't have to cancel any practices ever.
Right.
That's phenomenal.
It is so cool.
All right, Coach. Well, have a great day.
Thanks, buddy.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you real soon. You did a great job, Coach.
Definitely. Look forward to talking to you guys again.
Okay.
Thanks, bud.
See you.
That was great insight. So I got a couple of great nuggets, and that was phenomenal. Hopefully my elbow. Want to see my elbow,
Well,
sir?
I mean, and look, and you
Look at
can
that
look.
elbow.
I mean,
Look
we
at
didn't even talk about.
Look at
I know
that.
you
Look at
look like you got a little golf ball.
Yeah.
Look, we didn't even talk about his track record with the QBs that he's coached individually. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You talk about like Tyler Douglas and some of those guys, but all athletes, right? Which is extremely conducive to, you know, your son Troy, who's an athlete. Like he's an athlete that, you know, is going to develop those QB skills. You know, his approach to it, right? He's not trying to correct arm angles. He's trying to just use what those kids have athletic ability wise to progress it, right? He's not trying to so much change guys as in terms of like, you know, he wants to make them aware of, hey, do it this way, even within, you know, like you said, your wing T offense, right? Like use it this way. It can help you. Then you can develop it. So
no doubt. Phenomenal job. Great job today, dude, by the way. Thank you.
all right, buddy.
All right.